Hello, you're watching Shalom World News. I'm Donna Villa from Chicago, USA. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. On Wednesday, February 1st, Pope Francis expressed his compassion towards the victims of abuse and violence in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, telling them, quote, "I am close to you, your tears are also mine, and I feel your pain. To every family in mourning or displaced by burned villages and other war crimes, to survivors of sexual violence, to every injured child and adult, I say, I am with you. I would like to bring you God's caress," end quote. The victims assembled at the Apostolic Nunciature in the capital city of Kinshasa to share their sufferings with the Holy Father. Pope Francis made a direct plea for peace and reconciliation between the rival factions in the DRC. The Holy Father also praised the work of charities in the DRC while meeting with their delegates on Wednesday evening. Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo, the Archbishop of Kinshasa, expressed his satisfaction at welcoming the Holy Father and shared the joy of all the Christian faithful during the Mass celebrated by Pope Francis on Wednesday, February 1st at the Ndola Airport in Kinshasa. The prelate said that the Pope's visit has provided encouragement and consolation to the people who have been weakened by the numerous conflicts. The Holy Father's visit comes as general election is scheduled for December 20, 2023, which he added risks being a source of political and social tension in the country. Everyone feels encouraged in their faith as a result of this visit and the Eucharistic celebration, which is a symbol of love that the people would be able to obtain the favor of real enduring peace for their nation. Therefore, there is cause for optimism regarding the holding of a, quote, free, transparent, democratic, and peaceful election thanks to the Holy Father's message. All are reconciled in Christ. A Holy Mass was held at the Vatican 1 month following Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI's passing at 95 on December 31, 2022. Monsignor George Ganchvine, the secretary to Benedict XVI, presided over the Mass, which was concelebrated by other priests, including Father Federico Lombardi, S.J., the president of the Joseph Ratzinger Foundation. In his homily, Ganchvine said that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI was one of the greatest and most influential theologians of all time. On January 31, 2023, the Holy Mass was held a short distance from Benedict XVI's grave, which is close to St. Peter's tomb. On the occasion, the Holy See also released a stamp in his memory. The stamp was created by the Philatelic and Numismatic Office of the Holy See and is available at their post office until March 4, 2023. The phrase Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, 1927 to 2022 Vatican City is placed next to a picture of Our Lady and the figure of Benedict XVI. Following his return from the funeral of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI in Rome, Cardinal Joseph Zen's health began to deteriorate and he was admitted to a hospital in Hong Kong. The 91-year-old Cardinal revealed on his blog that he was receiving medical attention at a hospital after having breathing problems. The prelate claimed that after extensive testing, the physicians had concluded that he did not have any bacterial infection in his lungs, as he had in 2016 when he spent 3 weeks in the hospital. "I have been residing in the hospital, which is why I have not been heard from. Please know that I am receiving the best medical treatment available in Hong Kong," he added. In the blog entry titled Letter to Inmates, Cardinal Zen provided the health update. The Cardinal has spent the last 10 years volunteering his time in Hong Kong's prison ministry, where he has baptized numerous inmates. In the past, Cardinal Zen has also criticized the Chinese Communist Party for allegedly persecuting religious communities. The State Department should be urged to include Nigeria on its annual list of nations that violate religious freedom, known as the countries of particular Concern, or CPC, according to a resolution that New Jersey Representative Chris Smith introduced on Tuesday, January 31st. The resolution also requests the appointment of a special representative to address regional human rights abuses. The resolution, which is co-sponsored by the Texas Democrat Henry Cuellar and Arkansas Republican French Hill, will demonstrate American support for religious freedom around the globe, particularly in Nigeria. Last year alone, 5,014 Christians were killed in Nigeria, accounting for nearly 90% of Christian deaths worldwide, as well as 90% of Christian kidnappings across the Smith said Tuesday press release. The Biden administration must act immediately and redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern to mitigate this alarming threat to religious liberty. Despite widespread human rights abuses against Christians and other religious minorities in Nigeria, such as murders and kidnappings, the U.S. State Department removed Nigeria from its CPC list under the Biden administration in 2021 and kept the nation off the list once more in 2022. On Monday, January 30, Portugal's Constitutional Court rejected a bill permitting euthanasia for a second time, citing intolerable vagueness in its phrasing and returning the text to Parliament. In a statement, the court's judges stated that they had concluded that the language did not adhere to the basic law because it did not adequately describe the suffering of extreme intensity that could result in a medically assisted death. Almost 3 years ago, the Portuguese parliament has attempted to enact legislation supporting euthanasia. This law was already rejected by the Constitutional Court in March 2021 because, in their opinion, the wording it employed was too vague. Now that the subject has been brought back to the Constitutional Court by the conservative president of the Republic, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, Parliament can revise the wording and resubmit it for proclamation. The first vote in the Portuguese parliament to decriminalize euthanasia took place in February 2020, but the president has since opposed the measure. Rebelo de Sousa, a devout Catholic and former law professor, has vetoed an earlier version of the measure. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or the HHS, published a proposed rule on January 30 that would curtail and in some cases eliminate the legal protections from the contraceptive mandate for people who have moral or religious objections to supporting sterilizations, the use of contraceptives, and the use of drugs that cause abortions. In response, Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York, head of the Committee for Religious Liberty of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, said, quote, "While we are pleased that the proposed regulations appear at this early stage of review to retain the bulk of the existing religious exemption, their elimination of protections for moral convictions is disheartening. The proper reaction to the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs is not, as the proposed regulations claim, to make it free for women to sterilize themselves, but rather to relieve the burdens that our laws and culture place both on mothers and those who may become mothers," end quote. Days ahead of the visits of Pope Francis, Anglican Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby and moderator of the Church of Scotland Ian Greenshields, South Sudan has announced the lifting of the suspension on the Rome peace negotiations with the non-signatory organizations. The non-signatories, South Sudanese opposition groups, were charged with lacking commitment and war preparations when the South Sudanese government announced in November 2022 that it was halting its participation in the Rome peace talks. In a statement to the media, South Sudan's Minister for Presidential Affairs, Dr. Barnaba Mariel Benjamin, stated that President Salva Kiir has lifted the suspension of the peace negotiations in consideration of the church leaders who would be visiting South Sudan on Friday, February 3rd. The president has ordered the administration to resume peace negotiations with non-signatories, according to Dr. Barnaba Benjamin. He further stated that the arrival of the Pope and two other global church leaders is important. That's why the president had to change his mind to resume the peace talk. The Italian Movement for Life highlights that death is never a solution in honor of the Day for Life 2023, which will be observed in Italy on Sunday, February 5th. The Movement for Life will set up information booths across the nation to promote its operation in defense of nascent life and gather contributions for the needs of mothers and children. The 45th Day for Life's theme is drawn from the Book of Wisdom, Chapter 1, verse 4, death is never a solution. Choosing death is never a solution but a trap. It has a bitter side because of the repercussions of this solution do not liberate the human heart but oppress it, warns the Italian Episcopate Conference. The bishops of the Italian Episcopal Conference said in their message that three groups of individuals who are the most defenseless or vulnerable in today's society are expectant mothers, the aged ailing persons, and war refugees. The Episcopate's message challenges us to rediscover the concept of freedom and to encourage concrete deeds in defense of life. Data indicating that Nigeria has the greatest percentage of Catholics attending Holy Mass worldwide is good news, according to Archbishop Ignatius Kaigama of the West African nation. The Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate, or CARA, at Georgetown University has compiled fresh statistics which reveals that Nigeria and Kenya have the highest percentages of Catholics who attend the Eucharistic celebration once a week or more. According to the data, Nigeria is clearly in the lead with 94% of its Catholics reporting that they attend Holy Mass at least weekly compared to 73% in Kenya and 69% in Lebanon. The Archbishop claimed that the country was always in the news for the wrong reasons, including insecurity, violence, starvation, poverty, corruption, banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, and youth fleeing in the country. So this was good news. He praised the number of people attending Mass, the enthusiasm shown, and the wonderful attitude shown for prayer and worship. Despite the difficulties they face, Archbishop Kaigama urged Nigerians to seek righteousness in his homily. A Christian woman is having her case heard in court on Friday, February 10, in London after filing a lawsuit on learning that her 4-year-old child was reportedly forced against her will to march in her school's LGBT Pride Parade. Despite her family's religious convictions, Isadua Montague claimed that the headmaster of Hever's Farm Primary School in Croydon, South London, forcibly told her that she could not allow her kid to skip the march. Montague sued on the grounds of direct and indirect discrimination, victimization, and violation of the statutory duty under the Human Rights Act of 1998 and the Education Act of 1996, with the help of the London-based Christian Legal Center. According to Christian Legal Center, Montague's case could be historic because it will be the first time a court in the United Kingdom examines the legal justification for forcing LGBT ideology on primary schools. The Christian Legal Center also noted that the matter has caused resentment between schools, the Jewish, and the Muslim communities in the nation. According to the Defense Minister of Ukraine, Russia is preparing a significant new offensive and warns that it might start as early as February 24. Oleksiy Reznikov claimed that Moscow had gathered thousands of soldiers and could try something to commemorate the first invasion anniversary since last year. According to Reznikov, Moscow has gathered over 500,000 troops for the offensive. To protect the nation's territorial integrity, Russian President Vladimir Putin authorized in September a mass mobilization of about 300,000 conscripted troops. But Reznikov suggested that the true figure recruited and deployed to Ukraine could be much higher. Officially, they announced 300,000, but when we see the troops at the borders, according to our assessments, it is much more, he said. Meanwhile, a Russian missile struck a residential building in the city in Donetsk area. The provincial governor reported injuring 8 more people. As rescuers search through the debris, the death toll is anticipated to grow. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us tomorrow. In the meantime, you can visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.